yeah, now that the Realms Deep part of the Realms Deep thing is over, let's get on with the rest of it. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you guys. I've been kind of like peripherally following the project for a while, especially once I knew that it was going to be a Hellforge Studios thing. So let's go around the table. Everybody introduce yourselves.
I am Mike, project lead for Relentless Frontier. I also do the level design, 3D modeling for the sprite references, and now for models in game, and the texture work, and I guess some of the sound works.
Steven?
I'm Steven. I do the programming stuff. I also do a lot of research and development. Anything we're like, hey, we have a cool idea, I take care of any research behind that and some minor Photoshop stuff.
And Grant?
Yeah, I'm the artist. I'm the 2D animation artist. Mike handles all the textures, but I do all the animations for like the enemies and do it like the guns. I draw those over his 3D models, and basically any other like props he needs that are 2D.
Well, let's start with that because this is a really particularly beautiful looking GZ dimension.
Start it.
Get fucked, Steven. It's a running joke with us that every time someone says, "Man, that sprite work," I always like go to Steven. I'm like, "Man, that coding," because nobody appreciates the programmer.
Well, I haven't played it yet. You got to understand. Like I've seen some impressive things, but like I also have to pick an order. I'm going to talk to everybody here.
Yeah, but yeah. Sorry, what was your question?
Just what's been the challenge? I don't know. What's been the journey of you working on this project and doing all these really cool looking animations? Like I was watching the other day when Mike was streaming it to the Realms Deep chat with all the devs hanging out and everything, and it's just a particularly good looking game. I mean, it's obviously a Doom Engine game, but it looks so much more professional than that, and that's what we're going for. I mean, it wouldn't be viable for commercial use otherwise.
Oh yeah. It's so the original reason where this art style originated was I was going to make a top-down twin-stick shooter, and I was like, okay, well, I want to make that look like Metal Slug. So I was like, okay, how do I make it look like Metal Slug? And I spent like a long time studying how like Metal Slug looks and like how it animates because it doesn't look like any other pixel animation I'd seen. Because there was something weird about it, something special, and so like I eventually got to I realized it's not the level of detail exactly. It's that most pixel art is animated very snappy with like a very few frames. So like someone using swinging a sword would be they hold the sword up and then like there's this big arc that's like the sword being active and then like goes back to their idle sprite. So that's like 2 frames. And it's like very and they're always like snap to their angles and they're everything a lot of pixel art goes to like 45-degree angles and 90-degree angles when they move, and it's like what set Metal Slug apart was that it's actually not animated like that almost at all. It's animated like an old Disney film. It's just like very they just went from like the person like swinging a sword would be like 14 frames. It's like there's just the amount of like animation that got put into it. It was like they're animating it like it would actually move in real life and not like how like pretty much every like pixel art thing that you see like is animated. So I was like, that was like the big like, oh, okay, I figured that out. And that's how I started animating, was just like, okay, make it pixel art, but make it like a classic 2D animated movie. And it's like started off there, and it's just like I just did a series of animations where I was like doing a full like animation like every day for like a week. And it's like that got me up to speed. And then like when we got to this, it's like, okay, this is how I'm animating now. And it's like when I actually showed it to Mike and everyone, it was just like, wow, that doesn't look anything like Doom. And like so that's why it looks like this. It's like so over animated.
Yeah, I mean, do you consider it to be over animated or?
Well, especially compared to like like normal Doom sprites, where it's uh, like a walk cycle would be like 3 frames of animation, and mine's like 8. But it's because like just how you animate when you're making like a movie or a show. So it's like I didn't realize that that's not how like most game, like especially like Doom games look. So it's like comparatively, yeah, but like I think my level of detail obviously isn't as good as like Ion Maiden, where it's like there's like tons and tons of like stuff all over it.
Ion Fury.
Oh yeah, shit! I got
just not Maiden.
I tried to remember what the correct name was, but it's like, is it Iron Maiden? Is it Ion Maiden? Is it Ion? Damn it. Is it Ion Storm? No, that's a company.
Iron Fury. Iron Fury. Yeah.
Iron Fury.
Yeah. No.
Iron Marines. So it's like I only have like 5 level, usually like 5 or less like area like amount levels of shading on characters, but it looks better just because there's more frames of it moving, and like that's why it doesn't look like anything else, because we're making a Doom style game with like this stuff with like animation that's copied off of like Metal Slug style. It's like that's like part of why like I think like we'll be okay in terms of like people like enjoying it.
Yeah. And then if I could clarify something technically, so one of the neat things about using modern source port for Doom is we can use way more frames on things, up to 35 a second, because the tick thing. We don't have the limitations that like id Software used to have, where they're trying for getting the most movement out of like as few frames as possible.
Yeah, it's like how original Quake, like they have full 3D models, like they can have as many frames as they want, but it's like they cut out a ton of frames. It's like they would like, but like 3D models moved into like having perfectly smooth 60 like frames per second animation, but like
interpolation and whatnot.
Yeah, but like 2D stuff never did, because like they moved out. The people moved out of that.
Did you have a background in animation prior to?
No.
Okay.
This is like I literally just like did like 5 animation exercises, and then like just did like an animated thing like every day for like a week or 2, and like that's all I got pretty much before starting this. I was an artist before that.
Okay. Yeah. So you had some kind of credential here.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of art did you do?
I did like I was on DeviantArt for a long time. I was doing comics and stuff, like just like random shit. Like I never really got any like series really off the floor. But like this is like the first like big thing that I've been involved with.
It's interesting, like how people end up kind of in the same place. Were you a Doom fan?
No.
In general? Okay.
Yeah, me and Steve were Doom fans, and then we just brought it up to him.
Mm-hmm. We're like, hey, wait, all of our stuff.
Yeah, it was my idea to make a game in the Doom engine, just because Mike was like a prolific mod creator.
Prolific, yes, legendary.
Prolific. Well known. He was a well liked Doom modder.
Yeah, Z-Doom Wars community liked me. I don't know how long the Goals vs. Humans community existed. But.
Yeah, but like, so it was just like going to them, and I was like, hey, you guys know how to make stuff in the Doom engine. Like, let's make an FPS there. I hate it. I hate that decision now, but like, we're with it.
What were the challenges that made you say like now that you hate it?
Every time we say, hey, Steven, can we make like. We have this great idea for a mechanic. It'll make the game really fun and like balanced and good. Can we do it? And his answer is always, maybe.
Who knows?
We'll have to exploit all these other things about it, and like
it's like, yes, we could do it. How hard? Who knows?
Yeah.
You know?
Whether we can implement anything is always like question mark, or whether it's even worth it. Hey, can we give people like the enemies good AI? No.
We can try.
We can trick people into thinking it's good.
Yeah.
It's the art of the show business, you know. It's all about like making the player believe that what they're seeing is sentient, though it is not. It's interesting. Like, it's a really interesting challenge, just in general, is like making it believable. And from what I saw, like this very much like reminded me, and I think this might be like a trigger word for you guys. I'm not sure, but it's like this feels like Half-Life 2 and Doom.
Yeah, I actually said that to Mike.
Yeah, head crabs.
Yeah, well, not that. I was looking at his environments, and I was like,
Yeah.
this looks a lot like Half-Life.
Yeah. Like the terrain, the way that you move through the levels, the level design itself, just in general, kind of like, oh, this feels very much like Half-Life 2 level. Not that the head crabs, you know, totally set aside for a different conversation.
I called that, by the way.
Yeah,
It's like we got to make these things not look like head crabs.
Yeah.
we tried. And then whoops.
I think it'll be okay. I think people will still be like, first of all, they'll just be impressed. Like, man, this is cool. It's in the Doom engine. It's always going to be a novelty in general to get people like into it, or a turner off. Like, I don't understand these people that are like, this is made the Doom engine. It's just a Doom mod. Why are you selling it for money? I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like,
I see that attitude about mobile games getting ported to the PC,
yeah,
where it's like this game looks like the game looks good, and it's like it's just a mobile port, and it's like, okay, the game's good though.
Yeah. Like, the amount of effort that goes into it. Like, I figure one of the big things that separates mods from like actual commercial releases, even if it's maybe built akin to like a mod would be built, is the level of asset creation and the level of quality that you try to like meet when you're making things. Where it's like with a mod, you can probably get away with, this sound doesn't really work too well, or this asset's kind of ended up in it. Oops, oh well. Whereas like if we leave too much of that stuff on the ground and we actually release it, say on Steam, and people are way less forgiving with like a commercial release than a mod. So we got to make sure everything is kind of up to a standard.
I'm certain that it will be. You know, that you guys seem like you all have good heads on your shoulders, and you're working with the right team. I think if there's anybody who has a vision for this, I mean, it's the group surrounding Hellforge Studios, and I would actually give credit. I'm sure there's other predecessors to this too, but like one of my favorites to point out is always like Hedon. Like, that game was a huge success. I mean, Zan is apparently rolling in the dough, at least in, you know, whatever Romanian dollars equivalent to, and maybe millions for all I know.
Hell yeah.
But
And Head On 2 is coming up soon.
Oh,
when you say soon, I think we'll have just shown the trailer for it at some point during the show. So yeah.
Oh.
Not sponsored by Hedon or anything like that.
In the Keep podcast is brought to you by Zan the Bone Breaker.
Hey.
Big titties, little game.
Big adventure.
So I guess the natural segue from that is to start talking about the programming, since we've already kind of touched on it a little bit. Steven, what are some of the difficult programming challenges that they've asked you to implement that you have successful? We'll start with the successful ones, and then we can talk about the would have.
Successful ones. Movement is always hard, but like getting the slugs to like that jump attack by itself has made them such an interesting like creature, because nothing stops them.
Mm-hmm.
They can get anywhere they want. You are safe like nowhere, aside from us literally having invisible lines that says no, you can't. Don't go away.
Because they can get under like obstacles you can get under, they can get under.
Yeah, they're small enough they get through everything. Their jump is super good. Them not getting stuck into things because they jump into places they're not supposed to be. The game freaks out. We have to give them a slight nudge to get away. But it all worked. and it was like super surprising to us how fluid these enemies are when they're in a group.
Yeah.
Like, like you'll watch clips and they just sort of move over each other so naturally. It's fascinating. I love it.
Yeah, we were originally going to make them really like high health and like larger, but it just turned into like, nah, well, let's make them a horde enemy.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like I hate horde enemies, like tiny horde enemies, and like I think we all do. And it was like, but like we're just amazed that it worked out this well and people actually like them.
Yeah, one of the I think one of the big factors of that was the health of them. Back when they took more than one shot from the handgun to kill, they were just annoying. And then also before they had sounds for whenever they attacked or anything, it wasn't fun, and it was kind of scary to like play test that. It's like, oh, geez, the main enemy is like really annoying. And then you lower their health, give them the right sounds. They're now a wave of just tiny creatures that get everywhere. It will come from like unexpected places, and like you have to keep moving, otherwise they'll just overwhelm you super fast. Kudos, Steven. Kudos.
Yeah, that's all Steven.
Yeah, like if anything's visual for the programmer, that's a big one.
One of the things that we alluded to, I think, in the mini interview there was talking about Resident Evil 4. I mean, it's easily. Like, I don't have to prove my credentials here.
Oh,
one of the greatest games of all time, and a big reason for that.
How many times have you beaten it?
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that's correct. Everyone here has that answer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Point being, the horde system in that game is unique, or at least it was at the time, and that it's not.
Oh, it's still unique. Like their other games never learned. No one learned what it taught us.
Why don't you explain it?
It's God. Well, it's just
Doctor expert.
Well,
I love the fact that you're just going to be a crab monster.
Yeah. Well, like,
definitely.
Literally, RE4 is like the game I talk about the most often, and it's like the thing I've learned the most about game design from is literally RE4. And it's like there's one room in it that's actually a bad room, and like every other, and then there's like, and that's the machine gun room at the very end, like after the helicopter sequence. It's like that's the one kind of bad room, and then like the helicopter sequence is janky, and like that's it. That's the only flaws I can find in the game. But the AI in it is like it manages to balance having enemies who have projectiles and enemies who are melee, and it never gives. And it's like also, and it was smart enough to never have hit scan enemies. Like even enemies who like have hit scan weapons, like quote unquote, like they attack in patterns, so like they won't actually hit you, like they're just like sweeping you in one direction. It's like
the under the hood elements for RE4 are pretty nuts. Like if you're not looking directly at an enemy, they won't charge you, they'll just kind of slowly walk towards you, and you can abuse that knowing it, but if you don't know it and you're just playing the game like normal, you just get less cheap deaths, and that's super neat to me.
Something we were thinking about.
The time you got blackout drunk. And
that
still had like an 80% accuracy or something like that.
Yeah, I was literally blackout drunk because that was the bit we were doing, and I was still had an 80% accuracy when I was playing it. And there's a point where I literally thought, like, I forgot that it had happened. I thought it's lost to my mind, but apparently I was playing it unable to speak, and I was still like doing going into the inventory and switching my weapons and like doing everything perfectly. And then like 5 minutes later, I was throwing up.
Which we got recorded.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness.
That was a while ago.
Dear God.
Should we like insert the video footage of that right here?
No.
we got it somewhere. Unknown if we can find. It's like on, I think, Steven's old computer probably. But if we do,
we don't have video, but we have audio. We weren't doing video like then.
Well, we were. I think we were recording the. It was like we were trying to do a let's play. I think, and we weren't actually funny or creative, so we just were like, "Hey, he's drunk playing RE4. That's good enough."
Yeah, and I drank way too much. But
Okay.
okay, the enemies like in RE4, like the Ganados, the brilliant. The thing about them is like it's like you think it's just like one enemy, right? But it's like no, not actually. It's like you have a Ganado that's barehanded, and it's like they have to grab you, and then you have Ganado that actually has a weapon, so they have a slight amount more reach, and then you have Ganado that has a weapon but can throw it, like they're like the axe ones and the sickle ones can do that, and that's so like that's a projectile enemy. Then what are there any other normal ones? Like there's like 9 different versions of the Ganado that are all built off the same like good like basic but like and really like solid AI. Well, not basic, but actually like really complex AI where it's like they'll circle around you. They'll like Mike said, they won't run if you're not looking at them. But it's like they built one really solid enemy and then they gave them a bunch of different attacks and ways to get at you, like the shield guys and like the dynamite guys and the ones that have the helmets on, and it's like,
so if you ever need to fill like a 4-hour podcast with discussion, ask Grant about RE4.
Yeah, I could literally like
you'll get multiple episodes
dangerous.
out of it.
I could make like a full thing just talking about it.
Really would not be the first 4.5 hour long podcast we did. So, it's fine. And I never get tired of talking about Resident Evil. Like, just classic Resident Evil. I haven't played the new one. I'm sorry. Apologies. I refuse to pay that much money for a AAA game.
That's completely understandable.
Yeah.
Nah, man, you got to pre-purchase with like $200 and then hope you can play it within the first month.
The last game that I pre-ordered was Doom Eternal, and that's the last game I will ever pre-order. Ever.
Got to get that dude skin.
You know, hey, we can have that discussion some other day. But for now, let's try to get back on track. Stephen, how did you, with all of this pressure on you to replicate such a system, how did you do it?
Well,
accidentally?
It was just like basic game plan. Okay, this enemy has 3 attacks. Cool. When does it do it? And it just did the basics, and by magic, everything just sort of fell into place. Like it was. The intentions were just to make an enemy that functions at all, but then it literally just fell into place. There's no real intention there, and it worked out, and now we're building our game basically around these guys because they just work so well. That's
interesting. So you're like, you come up with a good concept for how the enemies work, and then you build the game around that, because it's the next tangent I wanted to go on was like, what was the vision for the game in the first place?
Well, we have a vision, right. But like our initial thought for these enemies was you'll fight like 5 at a time, maybe, and they're going to be like this bigger thing. And now it's like, nah, these are way too cool to only fight 5 at a time, and we kind of went crazy on placement, and it's just so fun. We catch ourselves like in development time playing our own game, like for fun and to like catch bugs and stuff.
That was a good change.
Yeah.
Well, when Mike first showed me like footage of the game, the first thing he said was like, "Okay, so this is a first-person like farming simulator," and I took that 100% like at face value. I'm like, "Oh, cool! That sounds awesome." Not the case.
No. So that's the Omnispanner mechanic thing.
Yeah.
Where, you have a melee weapon that converts enemies into a resource, Omnifuel. You convert, and then you convert that into either using special abilities, using the Hellfires on weapons, or just direct ammo or health conversions.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I know that's on the table, I want a whole game that's just that. That sounds awesome right there. Like Doom Harvest Moon or whatever.
Yeah.
I had a concept for a game that was like that, but it wasn't a first-person shooter.
It's a first-person farmer.
No, it was a no, it was going to be a top-down twin stick, and it was just like you're playing as a Doom Marine-esque guy, but the aliens you meet on Mars are actually friendly, and you're just killing like local demonic wildlife that's coming after you. And it would be a dating sim where you date demons.
Wait,
I
what?
need to contact Hyperstrange and make sure that's not literally the plot to Jupiter Hill.
Yeah.
What the fuck were we talking about?
Coding.
Coding stuff,
Then-
yeah.
Well, we were talking about the coding stuff, but then we got to talking about the vision of the game.
Like the vision,
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah. And
So,
we-
like,
yeah.
you land on this alien planet that's, like, totally had people on it because there's lots of industry and stuff.
Mhm.
And, like, you're first introduced to this enemy, and they're, like, not friendly, but they
They're
don't
passive.
attack you or anything. They're,
Yeah.
they're passive. They're cool.
Are they fuzzy or spiky? It's very important to the Quake community.
They're spiky. They are chitinous. Hard shell.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like bugs,
Armadillo.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
but
big
stronger.
bugs.
and cooler.
Very
Oh,
important to distinguish apparently with shamblers and all that.
Yeah,
Mike, what was your thing for them? They're the Armillamax, and it's like literally they're the metal slugs.
yeah. Armillamax, I think, it comes from like a French term for like armored bug or armored slug or something like that.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. Sure.
Yeah. And, like, that you soon find out that, like, oh, they're only passive because they're not being controlled by, like, a hive mind thing in a network. And the second you open that first door, things go down.
Yep.
And you find out the true nature of this planet. It's
Yeah.
just aggressive.
It's pretty fucked.
Is the story here essentially that the human race was eradicated by this?
Not necessarily. This is more of a first contact kind of thing,
Okay.
where you're on like a fringe planet of a Dominion space. So like the Solar Dominion's this big ass like Federation. Or
When you say Dominion, I just think of Star Trek Deep Space
Yeah,
Nine.
Yeah, the Dominion War.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
So you're on an outer fringe planet. You are a criminal scientist, criminal for partially unjust reasons, but you're in a penal legion.
Like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Back to the future.
Wait, hang on.
What just happened? Oh my gosh.
More like Alien 3. Well, not really.
How could
Not
you bring
Alien
that movie
3.
up? Even Jesus.
Yeah, we want to be
I'm
like
sorry.
There was an Alien
That movie's
3?
awful.
What?
I'm never gonna watch it again.
The director, Zack Snyder's director's cut really makes up for a lot of it. To be honest.
Yeah,
with you.
to be-
yeah.
So the one where Batman kills people.
Oh, yes, of course.
It's where he kills aliens, but he lets the aliens go.
That was David Fincher, right? That was
Yeah.
like one of the first David Fincher films.
Yeah, he
I
got
feel-
fucked on that movie. Like they took
Yeah.
as much control away from him as they could.
Wow, what a tangent we're on now. Let's just
Yeah,
go down
sorry.
it. David Fincher, one of the greatest directors of all time.
Yeah, I'm actually
Alien
not a big
3.
fan of his.
Really, you
I
didn't
think,
like?
I think his acting and directing is amazing, but his stories are always like, what to me?
You didn't like Fight Club? You didn't see it 48 times?
I don't like Seven. I don't like the girl with the dragon tattoo.
No wonder you don't want to be on camera.
I think he's one of those amazing. He's like Ridley Scott. He's completely perfect at like making a movie, but you don't like his movies.
Yeah, it's okay like to appreciate his clout as a director without necessarily enjoying the film. I get that. Yeah.
I need to watch Curious Case of Benjamin Button though, because
It's good. I mean, for me, I enjoyed that movie. I thought it was fun. If you like, Forrest Gump or Big Fish, it's like that. Yeah. A little less grounded in reality, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember the time Forrest Gump reverse aged into like an amoeba. That was a good movie.
What the fuck?
Took several days to watch.
Is that actually the plot to Relentless Frontier? It's like
Yeah, Forrest
this
Gump.
is a sequel
runs
to
on-
Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Dang it, they know.
ours is. Well, I guess what you say. Would you just say ours is Relentless Frontier is basically Starship Troopers, but it's not like satire, and it's actually against that. It's like against the idea of imperialism.
I mean, like the movie Starship Troopers was pretty against it.
Well, I mean, it's like you have to understand that it's doing that, but ours is like more upfront about that.
Ours is extremely blunt with that.
Yeah.
Very blunt.
The weapons you're using are like police weapons for crowd control, and it's like a 50 caliber machine gun is like a sidearm for patrol forces. It's not.
The shotgun, the underslung belt-fed shotgun, is called the Peacekeeper.
Oh yeah, it's really on the nose.
Yeah.
Or the Justice, handgun, or the Enforcer, the Magnum handgun that fires like 50
Our
BMG.
smallest gun is a Magnum.
Yeah.
Talking to you guys is like if I were interviewing King Ghidorah's three heads. Like you all seem to be very much on the same page,
Oh yeah.
which is rare as hell. And I
Really,
I mean,
with developers.
Yes.
Are you surprised?
Very much. You get a bunch of creative people together. They all want their ideas.
Everybody wants to do you guys run into like honestly like have you butted heads over some ideas?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hell, I think yesterday me and Grant got in like an argument about like I was getting like frustrated over portrayal of a projectile or something.
Yeah.
But now he kind of also just eventually cut through it, just be direct, and be like, "Oh yeah, whoops, I fucked up."
Yeah.
And that one was my bad.
Well, who's got rank here? I assume the programmer, because if you guys want something and he doesn't do it, like,
we're basically screwed if any one of us doesn't want to do something.
Yeah.
So like
Mike has rank because this is he's directing, therefore he has final say on everything.
Yeah, but given this project successful, we're actually gonna change directors to Grant because he has his own project that he wants to get done or get made.
Yeah. I have a couple hundred projects I want to make.
I think I fell into it partially because I'm like the one that wants to manage a social media account at all or talk to people.
Yeah.
That's important. That's extremely important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, who would know what you were doing?
Yeah.
A tree falls in a forest. Relentless Frontier falls in a forest.
Yeah. I think that actually got started with I was just posting things in like Civi's Discord and random other Doom related Discord, and eventually like, hey, what's that thing you're working on? I was like, oh yeah, shit, we should like name this and probably put it somewhere so people can see it. So it's not just like sprites in a void or a piece of a level.
Yeah, I think their exact response was, "Oh, those sprites are amazing, and nothing else is great about that game."
Yeah. So we're gonna ride that out, baby.
Yeah.
Fuck the gameplay, you know.
Nah, I don't need gameplay.
But you know.
So, like, you're working on animations while we're all speaking, and can you discuss the creative waves that enter your brain that allow you to be able to multitask like that? That's bizarre to me.
I was actually looking up a thing about how long you can work, like what your work hours should be, 2 weeks ago, and the thing to take away from that and apply to this is that there's different kinds of work. So like creative work, like writing or programming, where it's like you literally need to be like focusing as hard as you can to actually like make it good. It's not a matter of how long you do it; it's how good you do it. Because if you make a mistake, like you could have wasted like a whole day, like just staring at a screen and doing nothing. Would have been more productive. But like drawing for me is like it's like 10% or less is like the amount of focus I need to put on it, to the point of like I can like have this I'm having this conversation and I'm barely like having to focus on what I'm looking at.
You can hear the clicks and clacks of all the shortcuts.
Oh yeah, I have a big chunky PlayStation 1 controller, and I mapped all my keyboard shortcuts to that because it fits much easier in my hand.
So you do your animations that you actually like your workstation is a PlayStation controller?
Yeah, I have the keyboard off to the side here, but I have it has to be a big chunky PS1 controller because I need to be able to put both my index finger and my middle finger on both the back buttons, and those are, one is shift and one is control, and then if I hold them down together, that's shift and control. So every button that I can touch, I have basically that multiplies it by 4. So I have 1, 8, or 4, 8, 12,
He plays games left-handed, even though he's right-handed, just to save his drawing hand.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's a very, from what I've heard, it's a very interesting, weird-ass setup where he's using like 1/4 of a keyboard, and then also there's like a controller sitting over here that he uses for buttons and then the mouse.
Oh no, that's different. I basically have access to 40 keys when I'm using a controller because of how I have it set up, and I use a Joy to key to like map my keyboard to it. But yeah, what Mike was saying was I don't want to draw for 10 hours a day and then like play a first person shooter with my right hand because it's like that's just so much like strain on my right hand. So like, I moved over to my left hand for all mouse actions. So it's like the first 2 weeks are rough moving over, but then after that it's like a year of not being very good, like very good shot, and then like after that it's like nothing. It's like it's back to normal. It was at the very end of like Doom. It was like in the last like 4 hours of Doom Eternal that it all finally clicked, and it's like, okay, I'm just left-handed with my mouse now.
So obviously you fully understand how bizarre that sounds.
Yeah.
Okay. What? Okay. Was there like an inspiration moment? Or did someone tell you that this is something you should do?
No, I was just like I think I was playing Wolfenstein, like Old Blood or New Order, and after drawing for a long time, one day, and I was like, oh, my right hand feels bad having to do this because it's all cramped up at the end of the day, and it's like, okay, now use it for precise aiming, and it's like so it was just like that was just the moment where I was like, I gotta try to switch over.
And using a controller for FPS games is out of the question.
Yes, because I can't do that. Like precise aiming with a controller is awful to me. I'd rather switch over my entire control scheme to left-handed and learn how to play left-handed than do that.
Every time I like go to a friend's house or whatever, and they're console gamer or whatever, and I witness them play first-person shooters with a controller, I'm like, I remember that I used to do that. Like when I was a kid, I didn't have a computer my whole life. Like I mostly played on consoles, and now when I see it, I'm just like, what in the fuck are you? Like, it's like bizarre. It's like, what is this? Why would you do that? And
what
like,
is this? Why is this?
Yeah, it's weird. It's not weird. It's like it's literally what most people do. Like the vast majority of people do that. I'm so far removed from it now. I can't even relate to it. It's interesting.
Well, like Mike, remember when I busted out my PS2 after Guy got it back after 10 years, and like the way I was playing Black on the PS2.
That's terrible.
Yeah, what you literally said, like I play games like your dad does or something.
Yeah.
Because the only game I ever played, first person shooter I ever actually played with a controller was Half-Life 1.
Yeah. So like my dad plays a lot of games, not the best, but the way he'll do a first person shooter is move and look completely separate. He won't do the both at the same time. So it's like you go over to a thing and then look and then act and then look and move.
He's a tank.
I recently we were doing like a N64 night and we broke out GoldenEye, which is a classic, right? But I haven't played GoldenEye since like 2003 or some shit up to this point, and I'm just like, wow, this sucks.
It makes you so thankful.
Fat donkey. I hate this
stuff.
Yeah, it's great if you're used to it, but going back to it, no, that
we actually played Perfect Dark on a controller.
Yeah, we did the 360 remake. We got that on the Xbox 360 well after the marketplace was dead. That was a weird process, but getting used to it sucked. But once we got used to it, that game's a blast. Like, hot damn.
Well, that game was actually fun because it has auto aim, but it's like pretty generous. So it's like as long as you're like sort of on them, it works. And I was actually able to play that fine.
So, Mike, to kind of try to get back on track a little bit.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's cool. That's the whole nature of the show. Do whatever you want. But my job is to kind of try to extract information out of you like I'm some sort of head crab or some shit.
Unrelated.
Can you tell us a bit about like what your initial vision for what Relentless Frontier was going to be?
All right, so we've got an enemy concept of big enemies made out of a bunch of little enemies. Me want make shooter good, and then Doom Engine. Yeah, I know how to use that. And then we made a bunch of shit and kind of formed it along the way to where now we know more. Like, okay, we want an ammo balance. We want resources to be sort of rare, but if you use things the right way, they won't be rare, and then they'll be tied in with the difficulty. We know which enemies we need to design for the first faction. Episode 1 has a faction, Episode 2 has a faction, Episode 3 has a faction, and they start interacting with each other throughout the game. So it's like you've got hive mind bugs in first episode, you've got energy cultists in the second episode, and you've got secret spoiler faction in the third episode. And all of them are going to behave very differently, have different organizational structures, and seeing that interact with each other is going to be interesting.
It seems like the mechanics took precedent first. Like you had an idea of like the kind of mechanical things that you wanted to do with the game before you started working on a story, if I understand correctly.
Yeah. Mechanics came first, and then story is like even up to now, the story is enough to have an outline. Like we know what happens throughout the game, but dialogue, characters, like the main character has a name, and no planned dialogue. We might have dialogue, we might not, because a lot of that comes down to funding and time. If we get the funding and the time to add voice acting, that's good. Right on, let's do it. But if we can't get good voice actors, no voice acting is like way better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm also super used to telling, because I've been fucking around with comics so long. It's like I actually know how to tell a story like without dialogue. So like it's not really a thing with us. It's like we could make the game entirely dialogueless and it'd be fine, pretty much.
Yeah, which I guess also goes into like environmental storytelling, which is something I accidentally have done in mapping for a long time. Before I knew exactly what it was, I was just like, yeah, of course there's a gun next to this corpse, and of course there's a corpse next to this fight that happened, and there's bullet holes on this wall. And it's like, oh, that damaged the control panel, so you can't get through this area. So you need to find another way around. And it's like, that's going to be in the game a lot.
Yeah, or like all the damage on the guns, especially the Magnum.
Yeah,
it's like there's just a shit ton of scratches all over it.
Yeah, and that goes into the way you swap weapons in the game is you're not actually holding any of them. You have something on your back called an Omnistruct, which is the player character's own invention that kind of like absorbs a gun or ammo, unbuilds it, puts it in a pack, and then when they need it, it builds it in their hand
as a perfect copy.
Yeah. So which means the first like assault or the first justice you pick up has a big ass scratch over the front of it because it was in a fight. Which means every time you replicate that, it's going to replicate that same scratch because that's like the schematic it has.
It's like how it works in Vanquish, where he's just reconstructing the gun every time.
Yeah.
Can you pinpoint a moment or a game where even though you didn't really think about it, like subconsciously, perhaps it became obvious to you that environmental storytelling might have been the way to go, even if you didn't have a concept for what it was?
Red Faction for me.
Okay.
And then back when I used to make Red Faction maps, that was something I was trying to replicate. And then past that, not too sure.
Yeah, we're all like game design like nerds, so like every like there's so many sources for like what inspired us to do like what, like a lot of times it's just like osmosis.
And I only started thinking about it recently.
Well, just based on what I'm hearing so far, like Grant, you seem to have like a very articulated, like analyzed idea of like what you like and don't like in game design. Where
yes,
the creative individual over here is like, I didn't really think about it. It just kind of like happened.
Yeah.
For me, you know?
Well, he's the director. Like So like what he wants goes. Like we don't, because I wanted him to be the director just because it's like it's his project. He chooses where the fuck things go. Like no more. We're not gonna have a fucking like vote on every little thing.
Although usually I want your guys' opinions on things at least. Like I'll present it to you, and it's like, hey, is this good? Is this bad? If it's really bad, if there's changes potential, but the ultimate executive decision will come down to me because I know what I want to make.
Yeah, well, it's like look at the DC movies versus the Marvel movies. The Marvel movies, like them or not, they're headed in a certain direction, and like they're helmed by one dude who knows what he's doing. DC movies is a ship trying to sail somewhere and changing direction constantly, and it never goes anywhere.
We used to be a DC movie.
Yeah.
So really that's why I always want like someone as the that's the guy who says where we're going, and like if we go somewhere shitty, like it's shitty, but it's better than never getting anywhere.
Yeah, blame it on me. It's fine.
Yeah, it's all his fault.
Hell yeah.
Like any plan is better than no plan. Any leader is better than no leader. You hear that, Mike?
Ooh.
Thanks.
I don't know. I'll let the comment section deal with that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna come off as a real dick.
Oh yeah,
this whole time.
It's all good.
And there's also, as far as like connection to maybe what's happening in the Doom community right now, Grant don't know none of that shit.
So
that's probably for the best.
A question I have for Steven and Grant exclusively here. It would be, is there a sense having a designated leader who's like, this is their project and you're just kind of like hired guns on it to some extent, although you do seem to have a lot of creative input? Is there a sense of like kind of delayed satisfaction, and like, is there something you'd rather or hope to do when this is seen through, or are you just happy to be here?
For me, absolutely. Like I'm like doing this, and then we're gonna make whatever game I want next, and then like switch off. It's like this is
Steven's idea.
Yeah.
Well, Steven, wasn't it literally like you were like you're glad you were not like having to come up with designs?
I'm terrible at leading things. It always scares me. Like, I don't want to lead. No, you guys lead. It's okay. I'll just be in the background programming.
Do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as more like an engineer, where someone presents you with a problem and you just solve it?
I just got to solve it.
That's your workflow.
Have to. Like my background. I was going to school for computer engineering, so yes, definitely engineer.
Okay. I'm insightful. Look at me.
Yeah. And like my whole goal is I want to learn how to program in the real world, not like, oh, look, here is hello world on a screen. You did it. Good job. This is like real world. Is it efficient? Doesn't look good. Can people like this is Doom. People are going to look at my code. I got to make sure it's pretty.
If I show you like a leaking sink, like, do you have the same instinct to like...
Got to fix it.
Okay.
Like I will turn into a plumber, spend 5 hours hating life, but it'll get fixed in the end.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. You guys have like a really just oddly cohesive team balance. It's nice to see.
We've known each other for a while. A lot of people say don't like try to get into business with your friends, and it's like I don't know. I feel as long as you're like really really honest with those friends, it things kind of go smoother. Like I can tell someone, or I can tell Steven to fuck off, or Grant to fuck off, and their response is usually like, yeah, probably, or okay.
Yeah.
I always think about like if you go back and watch old movies, when somebody's like freaking out, they just come up and slap you in the fucking face and be like, you're acting like a fucking woman, or like, you know what I mean? Like this is like wildly different than the way we behave in society now, but like to some extent, not necessarily the sexism part, but like that's how you interact with your friends as opposed to, someone that you do business with.
Yeah, like you wouldn't care enough to do something like that to a stranger.
Right. And you're worried about how they might react. But if they just walk up and like, I don't know, Steven seems like he's a nice guy. Slap Steven on the face. You're acting like a fucking idiot. Stop it. He'd probably be like, you know what, man? I'm sorry, because that's how people would react in those old films. They're just like, "Oh, you're right, dude. I don't know what came over me."
So just like a fighting stance and grabbing like a club or something.
Yeah. You do that to just some like asshole in your office, and you're like,
Oh,
"How
God.
dare you assault me?"
My goodness.
I had another question, but I forgot what it was. So no, it was. I remember what it is now. Mike, you mentioned the other day when we were chatting about how you have interconnected levels that you can actually go back and forth through, and and it's an important game mechanic according to you that you be able to do so. This is a really interesting thing. It's not unheard of in GZ Doom. It's definitely been done. Vomitorium is another great example that's happening right now. But I'm curious, like, from the programming side on Steven's end, how did you accomplish it in this particular case? And also, like, what are your plans for it?
I think he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, wasn't it super
Really?
easy?
Yeah. No, it's just it's like a level trend. Yeah. Like that's just a function in like the level editor, and then just setting like global variables.
Now, like,
I
seamless level changes are like pretty common in this day and age. Like, people are pretty big on that. Like, it's a good immersion tool, but like revisiting them and like still interconnecting all the save and everything like that. Are you telling me that that's a completely normal thing? Like, it's totally cool. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a game designer, so
Well, the Doom engine is always it's a mixed bag of just this super basic thing like is no, can't do it, and versus like, there's this other thing that someone figured out already, and like we can just use that.
it really irritates me when people play Doom on like unlimited FPS. I'm like, you're barking up the wrong tree, bro. Anyway,
Gotta get 300
sorry,
frames a second.
Yeah. So recently, that's like so we went from like, oh yeah, I can like we can make a function of a gun, or we can like make it look good in like 30 minutes of effort, and then I want to put a crate 3D model in the game and rotate it 45 degrees, and it's like fucking impossible. Yeah, wrong engine. You want to rotate a crate? Fuck you. So it's like a minefield of like, oh, can we do this? Oh yeah, it's already implemented, and oh man, I want a box. No, never.
That's also why our design keeps changing and isn't like fully set down, because it's like, hey, this would be a good mechanic, can't do it.
Yeah, because I'm going into this as like I was a level designer back in like 2012 to 2015 ish, like the Skull Tag era of multiplayer.
Do you know Brad?
Yeah, Carney.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Huge
I mean,
fan.
I don't know him personally, but no, he's cool dude.
Side tangent, sorry.
Yeah.
I got the chance to meet him like face to face at QuakeCon a couple years ago. He's like the illest dude. He's just so cool. And I've got to interview him a couple of times, and it was just like such a gift. He's, I think, very underappreciated, and because it was you knew the Skull Tag community probably far better than I ever could dream of knowing. Like, what a shit show, and yet what a nice human being. Like, just a genuinely nice human being getting shit on the other side of it.
Yeah, that was.
Not that he didn't deserve it, but like he's a grown up now.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah,
making his own games. Rack actually looks interesting. I've never played it.
Oh, he's making Rack.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made Rack. It was published years ago. And then
Yeah, well, the reason I know about Rack is I go through micro trailers, which is a Twitter thing that takes every Steam release and cuts it down to 6-second trailers. And I've been going from like, I started at 2016 and I've just gotten up to 2020 now. So like I've seen shit, man. And Rack was one of those games I picked out as like, oh, that looks cool.
Yeah, Rack. The original Rack is really cool. Rack Exaverse, I have no shame in saying like it was a really great idea that was not the right either not the right time or not the right execution. I can't really say, but like that game fell through for sure, unfortunately. But whatever. Anyway, seamless level changes.
Yeah. So seamless in air quotes. There's totally load time, which is why we try to make hub areas where it's like, oh, this is a tunnel between, or this is like a little rest stop between an outdoors area and a tunnel. There's no combat, enemies can't get in there. So if you lock it up for like half a second while it saves or loads or whatever, it's not going to hurt the player, and hopefully they'll eventually just kind of accept it as a distraction.
Like,
I think people are used to load times.
I'm trying to think of like some prolific examples of the same thing. So one that really pops out to me would be Dead Space does that. Doom Eternal, or not Doom Eternal, Doom 2016 really does that. It's a pretty common. You guys are all smart when it comes to level design.
Yeah, anytime you're in an elevator, it's a loading
Yeah.
screen.
Dark Souls.
Portal did it
Dark
every
Souls,
level.
Dark Souls does it very like it really obviously like once you know it you can't unknow it, but like it doesn't feel that way. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, the advantage is Dark Souls is also very well. Dark Souls 1 and 3 are, and what I'll say everything but Dark Souls 2 is everything fits into itself correctly, and that's what. So like even it's trading off like your time for like, oh, this feels like an actual location, not a video game level.
It's so weird. Like I actually enjoy digging into this kind of stuff with you guys because that's one of the great level design tricks that does not feel unnatural. Like it just works, and it always has, and it's stupid to think otherwise. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, so the whole level transitions is mostly because we're going to have upgrades to the player, or permanent upgrades. Some of them are mobility upgrades, like a double jump or a dash ability. And there will be, like right now, we have the second level, you fall off an edge, and you can't get back up it normally. So you actually can't go back to the first level until you advance, till you get the double jump, you go back. And the first level has changed at this point. The invasion advances. There's like ships crashed. There's chitin pillars crashed down with a whole bunch of Millimax on them. And you go back because one of the ships crashed has like a new weapon on it.
That's interesting. Back to the programmer guy. So I'm assuming this is actually a separate level design. Like this is the same level, obviously, but you have like literally are rendering a new level.
Yeah, it's going to be like, oh, level 1, and you go level 2, and you get whenever you get that pickup, you go back. You're not going back to level 1. That's gone, basically.
Yeah.
You'd be going back to like level whatever number, and it's this new separate thing.
That is
and
so
it's
cool.
like, yeah.
And don't tell Scumhead, but I stole the idea from him slightly. I mean, the whole Metroidvania thing, but like him putting that into Vomitorium, and it seems like it works pretty cool. I was like, oh shit, no, that's a really good idea.
So I knew about the concept of Vomitorium. He'd been talking about it for a long time, and then when I saw Lycanthorn 2 specifically, I knew like, oh, this is about to happen. And that's when he launched the Kickstarter campaign, and like he knew what he was doing at that point. And he's got Mango doing most of the programming for him. He's an artist, obviously. He's a genius artist, in my opinion. He's like one of the best. But yeah, that's really cool that you guys are. Did you collaborate on that or
no?
No, I don't think Scumhead knows I exist. I literally watched the trailer and was like, "Hey, wait a minute, that's cool."
That you were like, "That's rad," and you wanted to keep move.
Yeah. I will make sure that he knows you exist. I'm really like.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
I'm a huge Scumhead fan. So.
So I tried joining a Discord for Vomitorium. There's a Discord server just named Vomitorium that has nothing to do with Scumhead that I joined. It's an RP server.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's up? This is the dev from Relentless Frontier. Here's the stuff I've done. And then all these like.
You have Vomitorium as an actual thing, right, Mike?
Yeah. So, yeah. And they're like, yeah, hey, how's it going? I'm like. Some 14-year-old or something wanna like.
Do you want the?
That's enough. That's enough.
Okay, no, it's not like that. It's not like that. Imagine if that like Sonic like role play, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever, like back in the old days. I wandered into one of those and was like, "Here's my portfolio," And I always confuse people like, what the fuck are you talking about?
You're role playing as a game developer.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
that was kind of embarrassing, but does Cumhead have a Discord? Do you know of?
Of course.
Damn it!
Do you mean a server or an account?
A server.
I don't know of a server. I'd have to be honest with you. I don't know if he has a server. He definitely has an account because I talk to him every day. Like,
Okay.
just go to the In the Keep server. Like you can find him there, I guess.
So like, I kind of like getting into contact with the other like developers, like so Sonia Waffles and them for Waffle Iron Studios. I talk to them like every other day ish.
I don't go a fucking day without hearing from Metal Neon and Sonya.
Yeah.
It's like just leave me alone. I'm kidding. I love them, but
Good people, maybe loud people, but good people.
Sonya just established Waffle Iron as a legitimate like business
LLC.
and everything. Yeah, and open up a bank account for it. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, we're making a Steam page, and I just entered my own information, and it's like, it's me, Mike, your studios. Hell yeah. And then, unbeknownst to these guys, I'm gonna like take all the money and run.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
I would definitely recommend business wise
Yeah.
getting at least a two partner LLCs to actually give you some real liability because like
Yeah, no, we're gonna go with a 3-person, and that's gonna be before we actually make money on the project. I just wanted to get the Steam and make money on the project. Yeah, you make like $50, and then that partially recoups the like $450 Dropbox professional bill, which But
I thought you were going to say the 450 hours of work.
all
that
valued
might
at
be,
a dollar.
yeah, it might be a little undershooting there.
Yeah, no. Primary means less for money, more for I want to make a thing. Maybe as a segue into actually getting into the industry, but I digress. Yeah, no, we got to do an LLC.
Money definitely wasn't the focus.
So I'm really speaking of getting into the quote industry. I'm interested to see like Grant at a real studio, like some kind of fucking big, cubicle building.
Yeah, well, I don't want to
And
die, so I'm not going to work at a big studio.
No, hear me out. And you show up and you're just like, you sit down and you plug in your PlayStation 1 controller. And everybody's just like, what the who the
with my tiny Wacom tablet that's like 8 inches,
Oh my god!
and
Look at this guy.
that I have a bigger tablet and I don't use it because I'm so used to this one.
Got the biggest tablets.
No, it's interesting how people find their very like particular routes. I think that's to draw an analogy to guitar players. There are, hey,
Yes.
I got my flying V just sitting over here in the corner where no one can see it. So okay, Steven, this will be a you and me conversation.
Yeah.
So they're like guitar players who are like very legitimately skilled in terms of musical prowess. Like they understand scaling, they understand everything to do with musical theory, and they have this very robotic way of playing that is a result of their training. And every once in a generation, you get like a Jimi Hendrix who just became, he evolved in a vacuum. He taught himself how to play, and he just has this wildly different way of doing things that creates a whole new way of thinking about the instrument, or in your case, Grant, the way that you're creating your art.
Yeah.
And that's to me, I don't know why, that's just like super interesting. Like, not to say that
that's very sweet.
I don't know that anybody here is gonna like decide that they're just gonna start making all their art on a PlayStation controller, but because you have a totally unique way of doing it, I assume that that's why your art stands out so much, which is what you were trying to deflect from at the beginning of the conversation.
Well, the thing is, I don't do any of this weird bullshit because it makes my art look good. It's more like I can draw faster this way.
Right, but like Jimi Hendrix didn't like strap his guitar on backwards because it made his fucking guitar sound good. It was because it was necessary for him to do, right?
He compared Grant to Jimi Hendrix.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Grant could be like world famous in like 10 years for all I know. And I'll be like, hey, Grant, remember me?
Always be famous for something. For sure.
Oh, no.
I always knew I'd be famous.
I don't know.
But yeah, the reason I have these weird things is just like one, to any artists out there, like don't learn to make masterpieces. Make a lot of short, easy to make stuff over and over, and make it as fast as you possibly can. That's how you actually improve. And that's
speedrun experience.
Yeah, I made like 10 animations in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was nuts. You'd spend like 8 to 10 hours a day just making it.
No, it was like 15 hours a day.
Yeah. And it's like, here's this thing, and it's like a 10-second short with no audio, and it's like, cool. How much of your soul did that take?
Yeah.
By the way, I love that you got the job here by like, well, I have 2 weeks of experience.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna like I got my project manager job with Call of Ragnar by making a PowerPoint on why you should not hire me, and they were like, "This looks great." Okay, cool. Let's do business.
Nice.
Where was I going with this? Were we still talking about level design to some extent? Like I know we kind of got through the intersectionality part of it, but like the philosophy overall, again, I compared it early on to Half-Life, but do you have an influence that's not Half-Life perhaps that lends itself to your level design?
Probably closer to Red Faction.
Okay.
I think back when I was 10, if anyone doesn't know, Red Faction is a first-person shooter released in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
The PC version came with a level editor, which kind of changed my life. I think I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I got into it immediately. I started making gigantic rooms with a bunch of friendly and enemy things fighting each other with one texture plastered on it. And then that eventually evolved into learning how to do UV mapping and texturing things, which actually got me into 3D modeling more so than like any kind of 2D asset creation or anything like that.
So what took you from that to Doom?
So Doom had a level editor. I used Deep Sea for a while. And then about 8 years later, I was like, oh shit, I can like replace things. So it's not just like vanilla.
Only 8 years.
Yeah. And so I just started experimenting with that a whole bunch. Started making a project called Sigmata, which was just intended to be like a survival co-op mod for Skulltag.
Mm-hmm.
And then that got rebooted later on for Zandronum. Dropped that in favor of Relentless Frontier. Learned a lot of harsh lessons once people actually played Sigmata. Like Bridge actually play tested it on the stream and ripped the fuck into it, and I was like, holy shit. There's like a whole bunch of things I didn't even think about initially. But yeah. And now it's just I use GZ Doom because it's the engine I'm the most familiar with right now. There's something kind of magical about Doom where you just start drawing a level and you've got gameplay. And what that does to like the creative process for me is crazy. Where I can try an idea in like 30 seconds instead of like, oh, I got to make a model for this thing and set it up, get its collision ready, texture it, and put it in. And nope, it was nothing, or it wasn't fun, or it doesn't look good.
I think that's why Doom as an engine has maintained a state like a current like popularity for so long.
Yeah. Low skill floor, high skill ceiling. Like a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I guess it's a natural lead in here. I'm desperately looking for the person who like fucking hates Bridgeburner. Like I can't find them. I know they exist. I'm sure they do, but like, there's a lot of people kind of gravitating around, the Hellforge community in general, and obviously like for many, many reasons other than just Bridgeburner being a super nice person. People gravitate towards that community because it's like a hub for folks like yourself who are fantastic level designers and or looking to improve their skills as a level designer in Doom particularly, but kind of overall. And I didn't expect that. I really, like I said earlier on, like seeing some of the projects that are not GZ Doom projects that are popping up in the Hellforge Studios catalog really interested me. But in your case, I'm curious, like I kind of touched on this, like in the little mini interview we did. What is it about that community, that group, and this, quote, studio that made you say like, yes, that's the route for me?
A rare combination of like, Bridge is good, he knows it, so he's got an ego, but he's also really nice about it. He seems to be really in control of his actions. So, like, he's charismatic and he's helpful. Like, I've directly, like, I could just ask him questions about, like, hey, how's this shit working on Ultimate Doom Builder? Or how'd you do that? And he's like, oh, there's this. And it's like, oh, shit, right on. So, like, seeing someone like that who, there's been previous members of the Doom community who made really great looking levels and really ambitious projects who have been largely unapproachable, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I won't go into who, but
Mark?
Maybe. Mark's kind of improved lately.
I love Mark. But yeah.
Like that was an interesting one to see. But okay, off the tangent of Mark.
Sorry.
So I got distracted.
Apologies.
I remember his one of his first mods was like Armageddon, I think, and I remember seeing that and I was like, "Oh man, these are like some cool ass effects. These weapons look pretty cool. They function neat. When's he going to continue this?" And then he didn't. He went on to Brutal Doom, and then I mostly heard secondhand about his interactions with the community. So that's just a bit of caution, I guess, from my end.
Oh, it's that guy.
Yeah, it's Sergeant Mark. Yeah. but every time I've seen him lately, he seems like a pretty well-balanced dude. I mean,
I legitimately, like, I actually, as a person, love Mark. He's grown up a lot. That's all I'll say. Like,
yeah.
It took there's when you blow up to that level of many people looking at what you do at that age when you're stupid and on the internet. I mean, I'm glad I wasn't like as on the internet at that age. That's all. I love Mark. He's a great guy. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, that's why I brought him up, is because like he was notoriously one of those unapproachable, like, are you going to get anything out of this guy kind of things.
Yeah, but no, he's changed. No, there's a lot of people who at the very least I believed on that end was like, oh, I can't really approach this person, or like, oh, they're not going to talk to me about anything. And then Bridge is kind of just like, you talk to him and he answers without. That's weird to me for some reason. I was like in the Doom community from like 2012 to 2015 ish, and that was a very different era for the community compared to like now, where everyone's kind of really just open about things. Everyone's willing to help each other out more, it seems. People
there used to be this like idea that you had to like protect the business, like the tools of the trade are like only for the hard or whatever, and like now it's, again, as you said, very open, very generous. Yeah.
Family secret shit like that really bothers me.
What do you mean?
Well, it's like, I can't tell you the recipe. It's a family secret. It's like, okay, your recipe's never going to get any better now.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Oh yeah, that's another big thing. Like, sharing your ideas with other people kind of like subjects it to criticism and maybe improves it.
That's a very unique to our generation thought process,
Yeah.
It's because of the internet.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Thanks, internet. God bless. Papa bless internet. But
Steven, have you run anything like that on the programming side? Like where you're like, I would really like to know how to do this. I wish someone would teach me or help me, and just
So I run into a lot of stuff where
Oh yeah.
I spend a lot of time reading Z-Doom forum stuff, which it's a mixed bag. Like I'll have
yikes.
yeah,
It's isn't it like it's a forum plus programmers?
It's basically the ones that matter are like, you know, the Graph. I think his name is Graph Z, and I always ignore the names. It's Graph, yeah. His post droids, they're very protective of old school Doom stuff, but he made Jeezy Doom, and that always confuses me.
I actually have a theory on that one. But...
Yeah, and it's so I'll have a question, and the answer is it's always a deep dive that takes me hours or something. Sometimes I'll go over to like the Z-Doom Discord and ask questions. A lot of the times I get asked for a lot of specific stuff, and sometimes it doesn't seem necessary, but okay.
Well, the thing is always you always get back is why would you do that?
Or right, like my current like problem was I'm trying to get the coordinate system to interact with me nicely so I can get an enemy to move, and it just seems like no one is thinking about getting relative coordinates to a monster, and I'm like, that seems really important. Why is this not a thing I can do with like a regular function? I gotta do it via math using sine and cosine to like specifically do a thing. I just stole things from like math forums to get things done in my programming. A lot of, but like I'll look to people like the best things I can get is like, oh, there's a project that did the thing we kind of want to do, and I look into it, like, how did they do that? I look inside, and like, oh, okay, I understand this now, and like that helps a lot in Doom.
Yeah.
The Z script forums or not the forums, but the wikis. Whew. Like no documentation. You kind of have to guess what everything does. The important stuff has documentation, but there's some offshoot things that you have zero clue what they do.
Yeah, before we implement stuff, like I always try to like make sure Steven is there in the call with us, because it's like, hey, here's an idea for a very simple, obvious mechanic that would be so easy to implement in any other game engine. It's like, Steven, can we do it? And the answer is not yes most of the time.
Usually it's like maybe, except with this caveat, they might go to space.
Space program happens quite a bit.
The slugs can swim, but maybe they fly sometimes. Yeah.
Sorry. To get back to Mike though, like Bridge like very much like swept up the CAC awards last year, like very neatly and cohesively. And I as an outsider, like I'm not a game designer, I'm not a level designer by any stretch of the imagination. So I only understand, what I enjoy. I don't understand like the ins and outs, the tropes of the business, that kind of thing. And I have to wonder, as a dear friend of him, like, is it really because his level design is just that damn good, or is it because he's so good at communicating what he does?
Communication, is very powerful.
Bridge, forgive me for this. Your levels look great. I'm not sure.
Play like shit. Fuck you, Bridge. I hated Bastion. Okay,
no. So I'm not into slaughter maps. I don't know. It seems kind of mindless to me, or it seems more like busy work to like fight in a slaughter map where it's just kind of shooting at a horde of enemies. And that is primarily what Bridge designs. Mm-hmm. And I ain't gonna fault him for that. It's just funny that like every time I see his architecture or whatever, I'm like, holy shit, how'd you do that? And I see 50 enemies in like a hallway, and I'm like, oh.
Mike, you're that episode of Battlefield Friends where the noob is just like looking at the architecture.
There's too many.
And like everyone else in the team is like in this intense firefight. And like he's just like drinking a cup of wine and like looking at paintings.
I mean, yeah, so So I suspect Bridge before getting into Doom at all had a lot of like interest in architecture. I mean, he's like a contractor, I think, or he does.
He does construction work.
Yeah.
That would line up.
So so he picked up his book of like fourth grade geometry and like picked up the Doom builder and went to fucking town.
I can't
Hey,
wait
do
to
you know
hear
what
his
it looks
reaction to this.
No. So like, yeah, no, it very like geometry, but really, really good ass looking geometry,
Yeah.
colored and overlapping in a way that's super aesthetically pleasing. And I know he definitely puts a lot of thought into the actual timing of fights, the like what enemy compositions are, the ammo balance and stuff like that. It's just all on my end. It's all in service to a type of gameplay that I don't enjoy.
My little dig, I guess, into Bridge would be like I agree with you. I'm also not. I don't even want to say I'm not a fan of Slaughter. It's just like I'm not a Slaughter map guy. Bridgeburner's map design is fantastic. It is absolutely like from an archaeological standpoint, like this is amazing. Like he pays attention to such small details that I would never even give a fuck about, as a player. And the same thing with Arlene. I had the same discussion with her, but the word is it fun? And I know he puts a lot of effort into making the difficulty leveling very sensual. I was going to say sensual, but making sense to players, not in a sensual way. The Bridgeburner is a very sensual guy. I know firsthand.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm kidding.
Taser didn't happen.
What?
Yeah.
Oh no.
No, but I get the stance that like this is it. He specializes in a very particular gameplay style that is not it's not common. Like slaughter maps are 1 in a million being half decent, if at all. He popularized that genre coming back and being playable to a fairly normal doomer like myself. Like I can beat Bastion of Chaos on the easiest difficulty if I have to. Age of Hell, who fucking knows? And that'll be a totally new, when it does come out, a totally new style of game for a lot of people who do end up playing it because they will have never experienced anything like that coming from just like your typical Steam game, first person shooter, Dusk, Wrath, that kind of shit. All of this is a very long-winded way of saying that I'm very interested in seeing how his critique on games that are not in that style, like yours, like your Foamies, like all the other people who are involved. I keep saying Foamy. He's my favorite. I'm sorry. Seeing his influence on games that are not in his particular genre, with his touch on it, is extremely interesting to me. Like how much does that architectural and that level design standpoint stand up when not in the slaughter genre? Okay, I'm done with my tangent. I'm sorry.
If I could answer that tangent with like every time I see him, so he does a lot of play testing of like WODs and whatnot, and he's pretty consistent with his critiques. And usually, like I noticed, they're pretty spot on. He knows the enemy balance of Doom 2 really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the shell ratio to arc vial ratio, like really technical shit like that, and then actually making it. Like if he didn't make slaughter maps, I feel like I'd probably enjoy his maps a whole lot more gameplay wise. And then looking at Age of Hell, how it starts off as not like a slaughter map kind of thing, that maybe it's a bit more balanced towards small and large fights. That's something I'm interested in playing, and if I end up enjoying that, sweet. Like that's kind of a big test, I guess. Like getting a non-slaughter map player to play slaughter map like scenarios and enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure Bridge doesn't like find where I live and kill me.
No, he lives in New Zealand. He can't get to you. He'd have to like
He'd have to like upside down himself first, and
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
Yeah,
he, like Stranger Things. He lives in the upside down, literally.
yeah.
His
He'd have to
toilet
do-
flushes. When he flushes his toilet, it blows shit back up his ass.
He'd have to pull his dick out of that chute first, and I don't think that's ever going to happen.
What? Oh my god.
All right, so after our long extended pee break or whatever, we got through a lot here. We got through a lot of like the core level design and the programming and the artwork and everything. But I'm really just curious at this point. What are your intentions as a game studio? Like we talked a little bit about Relentless Frontier that'll come out, and then we'll work on something else. But like, do you have plans explicitly, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
So before we set this up, we talked. There was like a year period where we just talked about like game pitches and whatnot, and did some like concept art for them. So our next project is actually Combo Eclipse, which is another first-person shooter. Not sure how much info I'm supposed to spill on that yet, but we do got plans.
Or even how much of it would be accurate anyway.
How much of it would be accurate anyway, yeah. And then eventually we need to actually get our name established. It was originally going to be Whatever Works Game Works, which it's casual feel, but looks really horrible to potential investors or on a portfolio. Fission Ogre is probably what we're going with. Once we actually get to the point to where we're known for anything other than Relentless Frontier or whatever our names are individually. That's probably going to be what we actually register under.
Okay. So, what does Fission Ogre do in your mind? Like, what's that project look like?
Fission Ogre does fission.
And ogre. But like,
So Fission Ogre does a lot
Get
of action.
out of my swamp.
Lots of action, lots of shooters. Basically, all of our relevant experience is with action games and shooter games. Things like RTS or turn-based strategy, role-playing games. Best I got for that is Dungeons and Dragons. But
dude, I'd love to make a horror game.
oh, horror shit, yeah.
Dude, want to
I'm
do
a
it.
big fan of horror games.
Shit, make
I
a
have a
horror game.
reputation for this. I can guarantee you free exposure for said horror game.
Shit, all right. Okay, Relentless Frontier canceled.
Yep.
Big Willie's Adventure 2 in stores now.
What happened to Big Willy's Adventure 1?
That's the mystery, dude. You're looking for this one in this haunted house.
Oh, of course.
So Steven, what's your pitch for a horror game?
Oh, God. Oh, no, I'm terrible at ideas.
Not a horror game. A horror game.
Horror?
Horror. With two ors.
Two horrors?
Yeah, not the one or not the horror game.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I was very confused. I'm like, wait, am I missing something? Man. Like, for me, I always, like, play horror games and stuff, and they all do the same thing with jump scares.
Nah.
And I'm like, oh, cool. Can you actually make me scared, right?
Building an atmosphere, right?
You got to build an atmosphere, and it's like, I would want to do something more along the lines of psychological horror, where your own brain is basically where all the fear is coming from. And so, like, an idea I've been playing around with, I have no clue how to get it to actually work. It's like the main character, you start off in, like, your apartment complex in the city, and when you wake up, everything seems normal. It's life as usual. You're getting ready for work.
Sweet.
And, like, you look at the television, news is on there, normal and stuff. And, like, you can hear your neighbors arguing or something, or just normal ambient sounds. And then, like, you leave your apartment, and slowly but surely, as you make your way, like, to work, you start to notice something that, like, you haven't really seen anyone, really. And it's, like, really weird in a big city, because you're like, where is everyone? And it's, like, it just starts to, like really settle in that, like, wait, where did everyone go? I might be alone in the city now. What happened? And that's, like, as far as I've gotten with this idea. Where it's, it's like trying to play with that whole you're in your own head kind of thing.
I am a huge fan of horror games. Not horror games again.
Horror games? Horror. Yes. Oh man.
Have you played Happy's Humble Burger Farm?
Nope.
Oh wait, no, I haven't. I may have watched it on like YouTube.
Have you played any of the DreadX collection games?
Nope.
No.
Y'all motherfuckers is sleeping.
What is DreadX?
What? You're gonna feel like a total jackass.
Yes.
Like,
He's here.
y'all motherfuckers is sleeping.
Grant might play horror games.
He might have to.
He might be on his way in. He says he's here.
All
no.
right, cool, no worries. Grant,
The search is
we're
getting
talking
sketch.
about horror games, not horror games. And I understand that you may have a take on horror games.
Resident Evil is my favorite franchise in games. But it's kind of like that's not because it's a horror series. It's because it much like the T virus, it keeps mutating. And it's like I have like 6 games from it that are on my like masterpiece, like 5 out of 5 games, and it's like 3 of those are Resident Evil games. Anywho, horror games. Do you want like horror? Like I'm not familiar with horror games, more survival horror.
That's fine.
Like I don't like I haven't really played many like Slender or Outlast.
Have you played Conscript?
Never heard of it.
You son of a bitch. Nah, it's okay. It's just a demo at this point, but we're showing. I believe we're showing a trailer for it at Realms Deep. I don't want to speak out of turn here, but yeah, Conscript is. All right, I'll give you the elevator pitch as well as I can. Imagine you are a soldier in World War I in the trenches of Verdun, France, and you are obviously confronted by German soldiers who are like obviously influenced by the occult. This would be a top-down. I know you're a big fan of top-down, from what I've heard of you say earlier. Kind of sprite work, sort of artwork, and you are forced to confront these enemies in a very Resident Evil style, like where you're aiming your weapon, you can't shoot, like you can't move at the same time, kind of thing, and you are very unsure of whether or not you're facing the German army or the this weird occultic, like strange, zombie-esque enemy. That's Conscript, and I love it. I'm really a huge fan of it.
Yeah, I guess anything where combat isn't always the best approach, and you don't want to encounter enemies. I guess that could be horror.
That's survival horror. Yeah,
I have a really skewed perception of horror because most of my exposure to it is fucking Phasmophobia. Actually, me and Steven play that. That's like a really good one. There's you never really know what's going to happen. You're mostly helpless. Best you can do is plan for things. Failure kind of like shows up when you least expect it.
Oh, so these are like 3D models that they reduced the resolution on for Conscript. I'm looking at a trailer.
Oh, for Conscript. Okay, yeah. But like, I fucking forgot about Phasmophobia. That's like that's a game that I love, and we like still play sometimes. Shit. I guess I don't think about horror too much. Most of what I get through on it is just loud noise or some kind of sting and something moved. There's a whole bunch of fake outs, and then when the actual thing shows up, it's just like, all right, danger. I guess I'll resolve this.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I guess I haven't seen a lot of things that do the anticipation correctly. Or the kind of mind games where it's not just startling the viewer or the player. It's just
Yeah.
they're actually paranoid, like after the media, like something that follows them into real life, and they're like, oh shit.
Well, you saw It Follows with us,
Oh yeah.
and like you told me you had a moment where like your dad was walking up to you, like when you're opening your car.
Yeah.
That's a movie I can never watch again because it freaked me out too much.
I recently, as of recording, not really as of the release of this, but I did an interview with Disaster Piece, who did the soundtrack to It Follows.
Really?
Oh nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Shit.
Coincidentally, he did the soundtrack to that movie, as well as having done the soundtrack to Fez and Hyperlight Drifter and some other indie games. And yeah, really cool guy. Really, really cool guy. But that movie, like, what was that, like 2013, 2014?
Yeah, it's
something
pretty
like that.
old by now.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it in high school with my best friend, and that movie fucked me up. Like, seriously.
It's the movie that has most fucked with my daily like thoughts, where it's just like I have to try not to actually think about it. That's how like creepy the concept is, and it's the simplest concept.
It Follows. It's right there.
I mean, it's like, if you put your dick in a bitch kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like
It Follows.
it's a very
Oh yeah, that.
easily, very, very easily people take that movie and say it's about STDs.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily personally say that, but like I get where they're coming from.
What's one interpretation? It's like like how the xenomorph is like it follows his metaphor for STDs. The xenomorph is a metaphor for rape. Think about remember the original Alien. Like, how does it end?
Where you're coming from. I can definitely see where you're coming from.
And like,
I mean, as much as I enjoy seeing Sigourney Weaver in that garb.
No, man, she's got like 80s ass or 70s ass. Like, women weren't allowed to have large asses back then.
Well, white women weren't allowed to
true.
have large asses.
We
White folks, we hadn't figured it out yet. We didn't know what it was all about.
It was another example is like the Thing is about just paranoia, and like, well, the original Thing was about communism. It's like the threat within. It'll become you.
Yeah, but it was also a really cool movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care much about the subtext.
Well, that's the Thing from Another World. The John Carpenter's The Thing was a remake of that, and that's not really about anything except paranoia.
Yeah. So like going back to It Follows, where it's apparently about STDs. That's my least favorite aspect of it, or the part I least care about.
Yeah.
The thing I care about more is it's nighttime and I'm going out to my car, and I randomly just feel like, oh, I better hurry up and move, or else the thing will it'll catch up to me. And it's like, wait a minute, no, that's fucking stupid.
You know what I care about most about that movie?
What?
Where's my wife at? Hold on. Micah Monroe. I love her so much.
Yeah.
She's so cool in that movie. Like, I don't know why. Like, she was also in my favorite movie of all time, which is The Guest. It's right up there with The Sin City, I think. Those are my two. Like, I battled between those two for the best movie ever.
Oh, The Guest is that one with the handsome guy who is British, who does a perfect American accent.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's how I know about it, because I watched the review. Sorry.
Dan Stevens, who was the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, the Disney remake live action version thing. Yeah. And also he was in Downton Abbey, I want to believe. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Who cares? That is one of the greatest movies of all time. I'm a huge fan of just like the team behind that movie in general, which would be Adam Wingard was the director, I believe.
Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's fantastic. He did ABC's of Death.
You're Next.
Your Next was fantastic as well.
I haven't seen a lot of these because I'm fucking poor, so I don't like go to the movies a lot.
Can I invite you to join in the Keep Discord server? I do as much as I can, like movie night, and we will definitely watch The Guest 100%.
Oh, it's on the list. But now it's like, oh man, I just want to work.
Yeah, I understand.
Throw me that
yeah.
link.
Yeah, I wish listed the conscript. It looks cool.
But anyway, yeah. Back to It Follows. The reason why I love that movie so much is because Micah Monroe, her character is like, obviously she's very, very beautiful. We'll leave that on the table. But she's like so good at just portraying this, not damsel in distress. I guess that's where I'm coming from. It's not a movie about like a girl who's like, ooh, I'm so scared or whatever. Like,
very much not.
Get a lot. Yeah, like she's like this, like she's a female who is also she's the strong man in the character, the strong man in the film. You know, she's the person who's driving the whole story forward, and that's what I like about it. Regardless of like the social implications, it's just like a unique and cool thing, and the fact that to kind of tangentially go back to what we're talking about. The fact that it has this like kind of sexual context or whatever makes it all the more horrifying because you see it through her lens. You don't just see it through like this, like you don't just see it through her or through some guy's like interpretation of what's happening. You see it through like her particular view of what this would be like to be stalked constantly by this mistake that you made when you were a kid.
Well, it's like the one of the things about that film is just like you're so into her mind and like just the world that she lives in, where it's like, why doesn't she tell her parents? Like, well, why the fuck would she tell her parents? Like, they think she's crazy, but she tells her friends. She tells like her sister, and it's like you like accept that because like the film does a really good job of like putting you in their mind, like. You're not just like seeing snippets of like the highlights of their lives. You're seeing like when they're just talking out on the grass with like the guy who gave it to her, and she's like fiddling with the grass and like pulling it out and sitting it down, and it's like, yeah, I used to do shit like that.
Yeah,
and it's like you completely get into their minds.
Yeah, it's a transference of consciousness to something that I don't understand as articulately as I possibly can. That's how I'm trying to say it. I do not know what it's like to be a teenage girl. That movie made me understand. Like that's probably what it's like.
Yeah.
You know?
I heard that's how not the guest. It's Get Out was that for black people, where it's like the end of that movie. Like I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's like people, like white people were watching it and were in their minds, they like something happened and like to them, they had the exact same reaction to it that like a black person would have. And it was like, that was like what Jordan Peele was trying to get across.
I mean, I won't pretend to like understand that point of view, but for sure, like, Get Out was weird because it was like a rubber film, you know. It was, and when I say rubber film, I mean like the movie Rubber, you know what I mean, like where it's like this totally inaccessible to most people psychologically. Like what the fuck is going on here? It's a how do you define even what rubber film is? That it's
You're talking about the film with the killer tire, right?
Yeah, the telekinetic tire, which is that movie in itself is a play on the term a rubber film. That's why it's called that. Another example would be like Phantasm. If you've ever seen Phantasm.
No, I know about the balls that shoot into your face and all your blood flies out.
It's tragically inaccessible to the vast majority of people. It's like, what is this? What am I viewing? But like to the people who get it, it's like totally understandable. It's bizarre for the sake of being bizarre, if I may say. Or like, have you seen Yoga Hosers, Kevin Smith movie?
No, I know of it.
Have you seen Tusk?
No, I know. Like again, I don't watch movies. I used to just watch a shit ton of reviews because I don't like pirate stuff, and so like I don't see a lot of this shit.
It's sort of this horror avant-garde thing where it's like you make a movie that's totally, completely bizarre only for the sake of being so. And that's for me, that's what I define a rubber film. Rubber being the most easily accessible example of that. And yeah, we're going on a wild fucking tangent, but all that to say essentially that when you view something that is like completely incomprehensible to you, either you're one of two kinds of people, where you get it or you don't get it. That can also be transferred to games to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Not everybody's gonna totally understand why Resident Evil 4 is so special. Some people just play it and they see like, okay, this was like a fun experience, or
Head explosions.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of action.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Or they understand why that game is so particularly good.
That game cheats. That's so good.
It cheats, but it's also well. I've described it as like it's like the term GOAT, like greatest of all time. That's kind of RE4 is kind of that for me. Not because it's like better than any other game ever. It's just it is the perfect combination of gameplay, your primary combat loop, how that feeds into the rest of the game, how everything is connected because you think that like every shot matters, and then like this perfectly put together thing, and then like on top of that, it's also really long, and then on top of that, it's like they never reuse a section. Like pretty much every section is wholly unique in some way, even if like I know like Mike has heard me say this like half a dozen times. Like El Gigante, first El Gigante fight, like it's him and you have a wolf with you, and he's in like you can grab the trees, and it's like okay, that's okay. You think okay, that's the El Gigante fight. Then the second optional one is like no, Ashley's with you now, and you actually have to like keep going forward in this linear way, and so it's the same monster. It's completely different though how you fight it. And then the third Heligante fight is there's two of them, and like you can cheat and like kill one, but it's like much more fun to just take them out, fight them both,
and lucrative.
Yeah, and it's like same enemy, but like you just remix it slightly, and it's like that's why RE4 is never stale. It's never we're a platinum game, we're just going to keep throwing the same boss at you over and over. And it's like. So it's like all these things plus it's long. It's like all these things fitting together perfectly is why like RE4 is I consider like the GOAT, because it's like no other game has literally everything like RE4 did.
So I think that'll be a good tangent for us to go on here and to kind of like close everything up here. Mike, what is your favorite game of all time? And you can't say RE4.
Fuck.
It can be from an objective level, or it can be from a personal level. It doesn't matter, but just define which one. What do you say?
So Doom was pretty formative. Like I played that when I was like 5. Yeah, gee. No, I played Doom when I was like 5. That was my first intro to like a first-person shooter or an action game. And then I beat it, and the thing that scared me the most about it was Daisy's impaled head, and I didn't know how to get off that screen. I remember like, running and screaming to my dad about it. But it's not something, or it's something I've thought a lot about, and usually my answer is I don't have a favorite game. It's subject to change really rapidly. For the longest time, Stalker, specifically like modded Call of Pripyat, was my favorite. Red Faction was my favorite for a long time. I tend to stick to shooter genres. But other than that, favorite game, fuck if I know.
It's interesting, just to kind of go on a little tangent about that, is there are so many, I mean, like, a wildly disproportionate amount of people who say, when I ask this question, Stalker. And I don't know if that's just like an attachment to the film, to the game, to the novel even.
The setting.
Yeah, it's like the atmosphere, right? It's the ability for a game to just really embed you in a world.
Yeah, it plays like a role-playing game without stat increases.
Yeah.
You physically as a person while you're playing it is getting better at taking down enemies. Like when you first start the game, you'll get taken out by low grade bandits because you couldn't see where they were coming from. You didn't think to look at certain places. You don't know where anomalies are. Whereas that game kind of forces you to learn, or else you'll just get wiped out super fast. And then there's a certain point you hit where you're just doing like a side errand where you're just running like an artifact to someone. You're just trying to build up the rubles, and you're taking the most optimal path through something filled with anomalies, something that has really dangerous mutants in it. You know exactly which geometry to jump on to get past them. You know certain routes that attempting to do this, like earlier on, even if you had the same equipment, you just die repeatedly to. You start getting into firefights where you know where enemies are coming from, not based on any radar pings or anything, but just, okay, where do they normally patrol? It's a game that makes you think a lot. And the thought you do with it ends up being second nature, and it's a really cool feeling.
Would you say it puts you like like if you could boil it down to one point, it's just it puts you into the world, and you don't even like feel like you're thinking about it mechanically anymore?
There was a point where I was eating ravioli out of a can because like I was just like, hell yeah, I'm a real stalker now.
Because it was Wednesday.
It was Wednesday. Yeah. So the immersion on that's fucking crazy. Call of Pripyat when you go to Pripyat. First time I went there, you get taken there by like kind of a military group. I met up there, and I left, and it was just super heavy rain. It was nighttime. My only light source was lightning, or if I wanted to get spotted, a flashlight. I didn't have night vision, and that entire, like, I have to get to this point without dying, and I'm actually, like, that was a horror moment, I guess, in an unintentionally, like, not specifically a horror game, but the dread of, like, having to fight things, or what the fuck's gonna be in that building. That's like a particular moment I remember a whole lot, and that was back when Pripyat first came out. I was like unmodded, but maybe Stalker, I guess.
Steven, you can't say Stalker, Doom, or Resident Evil 4.
Easy. Okay, so I'm like tied between like multiple games here.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna, because one is controversial, because I could say Final Fantasy 12. I played the crap out of that game and loved it. And I look on the internet, they're like, worst game ever. I'm like, no, it's good, I swear.
Well, if you look up the reviews of Stalker, you'll find a very similar story.
Yeah. But like, Nier Automata, it just freaking hit me different, because the gameplay, like the standard running around gameplay isn't special, but like going through sections of the game and you have no clue what genre you're about to go into next. Yeah. Like you've got twin stick shooters and everything in there, and it keeps it really fresh how often it changes. And like meanwhile, you've got one of the best like music soundtracks in a game. Like it's very like atmospheric. It tells a story about the world you're in as you're playing it. It's freaking love it. And like it's great. And I completely 100% both of those games because I love them so much. Oh my gosh!
And video games fucking suck. I hate them.
No,
if I have to omit literally my favorite games of all time, like so, Doom is out, Resident Evil's out. The Witcher 3?
Really?
Oh, man.
I mean, I love The Witcher 3. Big time. I love all the Witcher series, like 1, 2, and 3, but like definitely The Witcher 3.
It's like my mom's second favorite game.
Really?
Yeah. No, both my parents play games.
Your mom is so cool. Oh my gosh.
I'll make sure she hears this then.
Yes.
And nothing else.
My mom would never play The Witcher 3. That's insane. Like, your mom plays like full scale fucking whole world RPGs. Like if you said, my mom plays Candy Crush, like yeah, okay, that's my mom.
My mom also plays Elder Scrolls Online and Four Kings Casino. Like so she dips into both. But like,
I want to have a beer with your mom. Like fuck all these people. Why didn't you bring your mom to the interview? Holy shit!
shit. Damn, you're right.
And is outspokenly against like large AAA studios as I have been. Like yeah, Witcher 3 really stuck with me. Like that was just like the most complete worlds. Every single side mission feels equally as important as anything else you do. Every action has a consequence. Like the amount of detail that they put into the crafting that game. I have not played Cyberpunk up to this date. I will eventually when it goes down in price, I'm sure.
And gets patched.
It's playable.
Of course.
Just a big tarp thrown over it.
But even, to argue the point, like that's the nature of, I hate it for the studios and I hate it for the people who are like really creatively behind it. But that's the nature of what they do at this point. Like The Witcher 3 was dog shit on launch, like really bad in terms of performance. And I'm a PC gamer, so performance matters to me.
I'm the opposite. I'm a PC gamer because I don't care. I just want everything in one place.
Yeah,
it runs worse. That's fine.
I initially played that game on the PS3 probably, and it was fine, but like I finished it on the PC because it's the way to play it, and it's definitely got some performance issues, and it even to date, even to now when it's been patched all to hell and back, it still will not use your GPU. It's gonna suck the CPU straight out of your fucking computer, which is fine. Like, I've got the power to run it, but like
the guys who own Maya make this game.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way, anyone listening, don't learn Maya. Learn Blender. It's much better and free.
Blender's pretty good. Shout outs to Blender.
Shout outs to totally not.
Yeah.
What we call it? Like.
All right. Back around the table. Grant, favorite movie of all time?
Here's the thing. I have a favorite game because RE4 is like head and shoulders above everything that's ever been made. Favorite movie, don't have one.
You don't like movies?
No, I love movies. But a thing is, a game. Okay, a movie has for me to be like not dog shit that I don't want to watch again. It basically has to be perfect. Every scene has to be good. Every like character has to be written correctly, and like it all has to lead somewhere. And it's like if there's one bad scene in the movie, it's like, well, that movie's good, but do I really want to watch it with that scene in it? So
what movie comes closest?
Well, like but the point. But let me finish. A game, that because of this, there's tons and tons of good movies that I love. But it's like if for games, a game can have like a sizable portion of it be just bad, and I'll still enjoy it because it's a game. I can like, I don't know, something about it is more engaging to me. Like so, it's like
the interactivity.
Yeah, well, and so it's like there's one bad room in RE4. It doesn't come close to ruining the game. I play like so many games that have so many problems that I still love them. Because like the standards for games are different. That's why RE4 is like the best, and there's like a couple that are behind it. Films, there's like 100 masterpiece films on RE4's level, basically, that are like wonderful. And it's like because a movie is much easier to make because it's just the art. It's not the art mixed with gameplay. That's why like movies are more often better than a game.
Gun to your head, what movie stands out to you right at the second?
Mad Max Fury Road. That's the one.
Yeah,
we watched that.
The first Sin City is really good too.
Dude, no, hold on. We're about to go on a whole fucking different. Like this might be 40 more minutes of the podcast. Sin City is. I said the guest earlier, right when we were all just talking. Sin City is like battling for number one for me at all times with The Guest, and oh my god, Sin City is such a great movie. Like,
Yeah.
I love Robert fucking Rodriguez just hit a fucking home run with that movie.
Yeah, it's before Frank Miller went like full on crazy. So like,
I mean, I like the Frank Miller Batman, like the original Batman Returns. If you're, I don't know how much of a comic book fan. We could do a whole nother fucking round on comic books. God damn it, I love Sin City so much.
It's a really interesting because it's like it should be a stupid like movie, but it's like, and it is
exactly,
but it still hits you with like, okay, you know the part when well, of course you know the part when the detective Bruce Willis Hartigan, when he's like coming in and like meeting with or no, when he's in the when he's with the lady, he's with the girl at the hotel, and like she's coming on to him, and it's like there and it's like this really fucked up weird situation, and it's like on the commentary, like Frank Miller was talking about, like he was talking to Bruce Willis, and he was like, you got to remember this is a sad scene, like you got to play this as like being sad. And like Bruce Willis like stared at him, like, and it's like staring into his soul, and like he was just like, yeah, you just keep telling me that shit, because he's like, and Frank Miller was like, oh yeah, I'm glad he likes me, and it's like that's like it's a stupid movie with like larger than life characters, but it can still has so many scenes that are just like really raw and like human like that.
It's the perfect blend of it, like extreme action. I mean, like, you know, Clive Owen jumping out of a window to like, you know, jump into a car kind of shit. And then like, these really human parts where like, Marv being my favorite character.
He's amazing.
Like we talked about earlier, like the female gaze a little bit, but like the old man gaze, that's challenging because I'll face that one day. You know, all of us will. You know, what's it like to be a 60-year-old man confronted with like the sexual taunting of like, you know, Jessica Alba at her prime, like that kind of thing. That movie explores everything. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a whole fucking tirade about how much I love Sin City, but I love that movie so much. Like
that movie sucks because it fucked up the colors.
Yeah, the color was bad.
Look at my colors right now. These are Sin City colors right here.
And the one time there's color, it's blood and it's fucking yellow. I don't get it, dude.
But this the thing is that so that was on purpose. You know what? Fuck you, Mike. What's your favorite movie?
Wait.
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, there you go.
You're dead, Grant. Fuck off.
Before that, have you ever played Mad World?
No, send it to me. If it's in any way pertinent to Sin City, send it to me.
It probably is. Yeah.
Look up
It's black and white.
Mad World one word. It's black and white. It's okay. It's the plot of The Running Man, but it's in black and white, like actually like black and white. Not like it's not grayscale. It's like black, white, and there's like one character who's gray. And it's the most violent game you'll ever see. It's like Manhunt, but like at a casino.
Just so we're aware, the black and white on me was originally just like an avoidance of buying expensive lighting to make me. It's just like, if I just do grayscale, everything looks great.
There you go.
That's pretty good.
I will take all those games into account, and please do also send me links so that I don't forget. My favorite movie of all time.
Starship Troopers.
What? Starship Troopers?
Yeah, no, it's corny as fuck. They're wearing baseball gear. Fucking like my basis of like sci-fi forever. Every single sci-fi I move into, I compare it to Starship Troopers.
You compare Star Trek to fucking...
I watched Star Trek like for the first time probably like 2 years ago. And that's
Which
like
one?
Next Generation. Okay.
Yeah.
But before that, I was like 8 or 9 or something. and I watched Starship Troopers because my parents didn't care about and I watched it a bunch, and I was like, so I didn't realize that it was parody, or not parody, but like I was like, fuck yeah, Space Marines. And the whole theme of like Space Marines that aren't just big ass power armor dudes who are super powerful, but they're guys that are barely equipped to handle this shit, and they somehow still do, is like weirdly inspiring to me. And then I go back and rewatch it more recently, and it's like, no, they're totally wearing like baseball gear, and they have no fucking tactics, and it's like a super cynical movie. But no, I watched that. I watched the animated series that came out that treated it like just as an action thing, and I was like, yeah, as a kid. And then I got it. Then like I started going to Doom, where the Doom guy he's pretty badass, but he's not like in power armor or whatever. He's just kind of a strong dude facing down hell, and it's a whole like normal ass technology versus this weird supernatural shit or the unknown. That's like really cool to me. When I play 40k, I main the Imperial Guard because I like line infantry versus impossible technology. It's like goofy, but so yeah, no, Starship Troopers favorite movie. I also like John Wick.
I love John Wick too. Yeah. All right, Steven, I can see you're about to like pop. So, what is it for you?
Huh? Oh, I'm like different. I'm like so many different movies. There's a puppy here.
Yeah,
yes. That's why I'm like puppy. Anyways, let's see. So I usually watch a movie once and I'm good with it for decades, basically. But like Mad Max Fury Road, I straight up watched that movie 13 times in the span of like a week. I had to show everyone that movie. Yeah. Like, oh my goodness. Have you seen
the original Mad Max?
Yeah, I've seen the original Mad Max.
Yeah, we watched it together. It was a weird experience.
So like Road Warrior did not do it for you.
Like not as much as like Fury Road, just because like the practical. I look at the movie and I see a lot of like practical effect stuff, and I think that's really cool because when that movie was made, all that stuff is basically like dead to 3D.
Same guy who made like March of the Penguins.
Yep.
Yeah, Babe. Exactly. And it's I enjoyed that movie a lot. We watched it when we were like dead tired.
Yeah.
From like looking for job stuff. Yeah. It's a 3-hour movie, and we didn't even notice. Yeah, we were just enamored by it.
Yeah, we were looking for jobs all day, and it was hot out. And we were. I remember how it felt to go into the theater. It was like you're exhausted at the end of the day, and like we watched the whole movie, no problem.
Yeah, we were like, oh shit, are we even going to get through this and like be awake? And then we leave it like fucking pumped and like energetic, and it's like, holy shit,
it's a great adventure. Love it.
Probably best theater going experience. Like,
yes, Mike, you pussied out on me. I wanted to watch it like at that second run theater. I wanted to watch it all day, and you're like, oh, I only want to watch it
once. What?
That sounds. I don't know if I could watch any movie like that much.
I was probably busy with something cool, like I usually am.
Yeah. Always doing cool things.
Yeah. Like standing in front of an AC or something.
But, or Star Wars.
Original Star Wars trilogy is pretty good.
I cried when 7 came out. I was so happy for a new Star Wars movie.
And then your tears turn into a different kind of tears eventually.
Nah, I'm too much of a fanboy. It's perfect in every single way. I will ignore its flaws.
Oh, my favorite show. I can say a favorite show. My favorite show was Game of Thrones.
Until season 5.
No, until season 8, because 8 was the nail in the coffin that was like, oh. And then I can't go back. I can't go back to watching it.
No, the season 8's really powerful. It's like retroactively ruins the rest of the series. Like you can't even go back and just pretend 8 doesn't exist. because you're just like, oh, all this is in service to fucking nothing. That sucks.
As a huge fan of the book series, from season 5.5 on,
Yeah, that's what everyone
I'm like,
says.
I'm out.
That's everyone who reads the books.
They had to like make it up themselves. They didn't have any material.
Okay,
Yeah,
here's
I'm
a-
not shitting on the writers. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, I just didn't enjoy the show
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah,
When was that?
here's the thing. Like everyone blames David and Dan. I blame Martin. It's been like what 10 years since the 5th book, and the 6th book is rumored to come out this year. It's like,
Oh my god!
and it's like, dude, like it's totally his fault that what happened to that show happened, because they ran out of books to adapt.
I don't give a fuck about the show, first of all. So, like, I'm just like, I think it's conspiracy theory time. He wanted the show to end in a shitty way, so that his books would be like, "Hey, you want the real story?"
Yeah. No, that's pretty smart.
I don't know. He's pretty old, and he seems like a pretty easygoing guy. I don't think he's like that bitter.
I don't think he's bitter. I just think he's smart and knows how to sell books.
Yeah. Well,
I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it 100%. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pre-order the next Doom game. I'm gonna definitely buy the next George R. R. Martin.
yeah, I'm thinking of. I think I might finally break, and like when if the 6th book comes out, I think I might just start reading them then, and instead of waiting for 7, because that could be another 10 years.
Grant tries to wait for something to be complete before watching it.
Oh, that's never gonna
No,
happen.
no, I don't do that. I just you're thinking of Hat from the Best Friends, or formerly from the Best Friends.
No. Like you. So right now, just now, you were like, I don't think I'm going to be able to wait for the 7th book, implying you normally would. You were going to wait for the series to be complete.
No, this is
Book,
this is a
and
special
you're like,
case, because it's like I want to get the viewpoint of someone who didn't like wait and like think about the books for a long time and just read them all in one go. But it's like that's probably not going to happen. So it's like, fuck it.
I think Javier's watch through of Game of Thrones is the best.
Oh yeah, he's season 1 and season 8.
Yeah, my roommate watched season 1 and then he watched season 8, and he says that was a really fucking weird experience.
Yeah, not seeing the 3rd season with the Red Wedding and everything would just be like fucking ridiculous. Like,
It goes from like setting up intrigue to a bunch of stupid farts.
Where did all the characters go?
where did all the titties and ding dongs go? I want to see more wieners. Holy shit!
Yeah.
All right, we got to end this at some point. It's been really fantastic chatting with all of you. I hope we do it again as the game enters more and more and more development, and you guys get more release-age than what we're going to currently see right now. But like, I do have to go to bed at some point. This is really seriously. This has been really cool, guys.